This video is all about how to use in-text citations with a literary analysis paper when you are quoting a novel. So what is a citation? Well, it's really where you're telling people where you got your information. You want to make sure that you're putting it in there so that people don't think you're making up the quote or pretending that it's your own piece of writing. And again, why it matters, it gives credit where credit is due. Somebody put in the hard work to write that, and you need to make sure they get that credit. It avoids plagiarism, which is a big no-no in the academic world where you are pretending that someone else's work is your own. And it also adds credibility to what you're writing by showing that you actually got it from somewhere else and you're not just making it up. The tricky part with in-text citations is there's all sorts of different formats you might be asked to use. For this example, we are going to focus on the MLA format. Another tricky part is that depending on the type of text, the in-text citation is going to have different things in it. For this example, we're going to focus specifically on a literary text. So this is what an MLA citation of a literary text looks like. You'll notice we have our quote, and at the end is where we have our in-text citation, where we have parentheses with the author's last name and the page number in it. So let's break this down. Again, at the end of the quote, you should have parentheses, and inside of that, you will want the author's last name, make sure it's capitalized, and the page number. And you'll notice it's just the number. I didn't put a comma, I didn't put page, I didn't put PG.23. It's just author's last name and the number of the page you got your quote from. So let's look at a few other things around the citation that are important to remember. First off, make sure you have quotes around the piece of evidence if you're pulling it directly from the text. This makes sure that people know what your in-text citation is referring to. A general rule, often, almost always, you will want the first word of your quote to be capitalized. And then this is the important part with punctuating around a citation. You'll notice there's no period at the end of the quote, and instead it goes after the citation. This makes sure that the reader knows what your in-text citation is connected to. So those general punctuation rules, put quotation marks around your evidence, capitalize the first letter of your quote, and put periods after the citation, not in the quotes. However, there are a few weird rules. So what if your quote ends with a question mark or exclamation point? Well, in that case, you do want to put the punctuation inside the quote because it's important to the meaning of the quote. You'll notice I put this question mark inside the quote with a period at the end of it. If I put it this way, it can get a little bit confusing because now you might change the meaning of your sentence and they might not understand how to read the quote. So you want to make sure that question marks and exclamation points go inside the quotation marks if they're part of the direct quote because they're essential to the meaning. Another weird one is, what if you've already used the author's name? In this example, I said Golding shows us the character's preference when he writes, "For the last time, I dislike fruit." In this, I don't have the author's last name in the in-text citation because I've already used it in the lead-in to the quote. In this example, you'll see I still use Golding at the beginning, and I also put it inside of the in-text citation, which is not necessary because I've already named the author for the reader. So if you use the author's name as part of the sentence, typically in the lead into the quote, you don't need to include it in the citation. So again, here's our example of what an MLA citation of a literary text should look like. You should have one of these after every time you use a direct quote or a paraphrase from a novel.